seating me far at my cousin's wedding, but now their restaurant thrives on my vision. I was always aware, even as a child, that I was different from most of my relatives. I'm a 35-year-old woman who comes from a long line of successful Midwestern restaurateurs. My mother, Margaret, who is 60, oversees the daily operations of our family's French bistro, which is fiercely run by my father, Charles, 65. My older cousin, Adam, 38, is the heir apparent, groomed to inherit and expand the business. Meanwhile, I've spent the last 10 years climbing the corporate ladder at an insurance firm, Blackstone Mutual. I worked my way up to senior claims consultant, with my name frequently appearing on quarterly performance reports. My office on the 24th floor had sweeping views of Lake Michigan, and I earned a six-figure salary. I also had a sleek apartment in downtown Chicago, complete with minimalist furniture and city life conveniences. My parents couldn't stop boasting about their business-savvy daughter. On paper, it seemed like I had it all. But each morning, I'd sit at my desk, staring at accident reports, and feel like a little more of my soul was slipping away. My escape? A rooftop garden I designed on the building's upper level. I managed to convince the company to let me renovate the unused space, funding the project entirely out of my own pocket. Most of my co-workers thought I was unhinged for pouring thousands into soil, planters, and perennials. But for me, that little green sanctuary was my saving grace. During weekends, I'd drive to my grandmother Elaine's house on the outskirts of town. Her garden was an Eden, lush, fragrant, and brimming with colors. She taught me everything I know about flowers, soil chemistry, and the delicate art of companion planting. While Adam spent weekends working in the family restaurant, learning how to perfect soufflés and charm wine connoisseurs, I spent mine digging in the dirt. One crisp October day, while planting bulbs for the spring, I lingered with my hands in the soil. Grandma Elaine noticed and patted the ground beside me. "You feel it too, don't you?" she asked softly. I nodded. I couldn't explain it in words, the feeling of being fully alive in her garden. "Not everyone feels that connection to the earth," she said. "It's a gift, Sophia. Don't waste it." That day, she showed me her decades-old gardening journals. Inside were detailed notes, sketches, and pressed flowers. "One day," she said, "these will be yours. When you're ready to follow your true calling." The pivotal moment came at Thanksgiving dinner last year. The air was thick with the aroma of roasted turkey and cranberry sauce. It was our typical after-hours family gathering at the bistro. Adam was showing off the restaurant's new wine cellar, his latest project that my dad, of course, approved. While the others chattered, I fingered the acceptance letter from the Midwest Botanical Academy in my pocket. For months, I'd wrestled with the decision, but I knew I couldn't keep ignoring the pull I felt toward the earth. Taking a deep breath, I spoke up. "I've made a decision," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "I've enrolled in the Botanical Academy's landscape design program. I'll be starting classes in January." The room went silent. My mother's fork clattered onto her plate, and my father's face turned the color of the wine in his glass. Adam smirked and nearly choked on his champagne. "Seriously? You're leaving insurance to become a gardener? What's next, treehouses? Gardener?" My dad's voice boomed across the table. "You're giving up a stable career to play in the dirt?" Even my mom, who rarely voiced strong opinions, joined in. "But, Sophia, you've worked so hard for your career. What about your retirement savings? Your benefits?" Despite their protests, I pressed on. "My resignation is already submitted. December 15th is my last day at work." Dad slammed his hand on the table, making the dishes rattle. "If you do this, you're on your own. We're not supporting this foolishness." The only person who remained calm was Grandma Elaine. She sipped her wine and then turned to my dad. "Charles," she said quietly, "do you remember when you wanted to leave accounting to open this restaurant? How your father told you it was irresponsible and reckless?" Dad opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. The following day, I visited Grandma Elaine, who was trimming her roses despite the chilly November air. As I helped her prune, I admitted, maybe they're right. Maybe this is crazy. Elaine set down her shears and turned to me. "Your parents see the world differently, Sophia. They just want what's best for you. But throwing away a gift like yours? That's the real waste." I began attending the Midwest Botanical Academy that winter. Moving out of my sleek Chicago high-rise, I settled into a tiny apartment in the suburbs near the school. Gone was my view of Lake Michigan, replaced by a small balcony where I experimented with container gardening. The coursework was far more demanding than I anticipated. Landscape design required precise calculations, knowledge of environmental science, and a keen eye for aesthetics. It wasn't just about planting flowers, it was about creating ecosystems. Still, I loved it. Every day was filled with creative challenges, and I went to bed exhausted but fulfilled. My classmates became my second family, especially Rachel, a fiery redhead with endless enthusiasm. One day, while we were working on CAD designs, she nudged me. "You know, Sophia," she said with a grin, "when you're sketching, it's like you're speaking your first language. I've never seen anyone light up like you do when you're designing gardens." But family dinners back at the bistro were another story. The teasing hadn't stopped. Adam joked about my inability to push a lawnmower properly, while Mom slid newspaper clippings of corporate job openings across the table. Dad sourly shifted conversations back to Adam's grand plans to open a second location. Halfway through my program, I entered a small landscape design competition hosted by a local gardening association. The challenge was to create an urban green space that balanced sustainability with community needs. I poured my heart into my design. When I won first place, I was stunned. My design was featured in the local newspaper, and for the first time, I felt like I was on the right path. Excited, I shared the news at our next Sunday dinner. "That's great, honey," Dad muttered without looking up from his plate. "But when will you start taking your life seriously?" Adam smirked. "Hey, maybe you can design a garden for the dumpster area behind the bistro." Real fancy. Even Mom tried, in her way, to push me back toward the corporate world. "Sophia, you could still go back to Blackstone Mutual. I heard your position hasn't been filled yet." I left that dinner feeling crushed. On the drive home, I called Grandma Elaine. I vented, fighting back tears as I told her how my family refused to take me seriously. "Sweetheart," she said, her voice calm and reassuring, "don't forget your dad went through the same thing. His father called him reckless when he opened the bistro. Now look at him. He just needs time to realize that your path doesn't have to look like his." Sadly, that was the last real conversation I had with Grandma Elaine. A month later, she was diagnosed with late-stage cancer. The news hit us all hard, but she faced it with her usual quiet strength. Even in her hospital bed, she was giving me gardening advice. "Don't forget to plant your bulbs deep enough," she whispered during my last visit. "And don't ever forget, you're doing exactly what you're meant to do." She passed away a few weeks later, leaving a hole in my heart. Her will, however, brought one last surprise. She left her entire home and garden to me, a property valued at nearly $700,000. Dad had been eyeing it for years, intending to convert it into additional parking for the bistro. When the attorney read the will, his face turned red. "This is ridiculous," he exploded. Adam snorted. "Perfect. Now she has her own little garden kingdom to play with." There was a catch, though. Grandma Elaine had attached a condition: I had to maintain the garden according to her plans and turn a portion of it into a sustainable urban gardening demonstration. I threw myself into the project, working with local conservation groups to bring her vision to life. Word spread quickly, and I was contacted by a national gardening magazine to feature my efforts in their Heritage Garden series. Then came Adam's wedding, a grand affair designed to impress his fiancée Olivia's wealthy family. I reluctantly decided to attend, wearing a simple but elegant dress I'd bought with my competition prize money. At the reception, I was seated at the farthest table, near the kitchen doors. My name card didn't even say Sophia. Instead, it read the gardener. Olivia made sure to introduce me to her guests with a patronizing smile. "This is Adam's cousin. She does something with plants, I think." Her friends laughed behind their champagne glasses. But fate had other plans. The event planner for the wedding happened to be a fan of my work, having seen my garden featured in the magazine. She approached me at my table with enthusiasm. "I'm such a fan of your designs," she gushed. "Your urban renewal concepts are brilliant. I've been following your project on Instagram." Later, Olivia's uncle, the mayor, delivered a toast. Midway through his speech, he paused to praise my contributions to the city's sustainable green initiatives. Suddenly, everyone in the room turned to stare at me with newfound interest. Dad and Adam sat frozen. Olivia, meanwhile, looked like she was trying to melt into the floor. After the toast, several of Olivia's family members approached me to discuss garden design. One even asked for my business card. The next morning, Mom called me for the first time in months. "I saw the pictures of your garden in the magazine," she said hesitantly. "It's beautiful. You've created something truly special." Though Dad and Adam still didn't acknowledge my accomplishments, I noticed a change. The bistro's website now boasted about their family's commitment to sustainability, crediting their herb garden, a garden I had designed. A few weeks later, I met with the city's Parks Department to discuss a potential urban renewal project. They wanted to transform an underutilized block into a sustainable green space with community gardens and educational programs. It was the biggest opportunity of my career. But there was a catch. The plan would eliminate an informal parking lot that many local businesses, including my father's bistro, relied on. When I presented my design at the city council meeting, I noticed Dad and Adam sitting in the back row. As I flipped through the slides, showcasing the proposed vertical gardens and outdoor gathering spaces, their faces darkened. During the public comment session, Adam stood up. "This proposal will destroy local businesses," he argued, his voice rising. "Does anyone care about how this will affect small establishments, like my family's restaurant?" He avoided looking at me as he spoke, but the irony wasn't lost on the room. The mayor, Olivia's uncle, responded calmly. "Actually, studies show that green spaces increase foot traffic and property values. And if you look closely, the bistro is included in the design, with an outdoor dining area incorporated into the layout. This should boost business, not harm it." Adam sat down, fuming. Around the same time, the bistro received an unexpected visit from a Michelin inspector. It was my father's dream to earn a Michelin star, but there was a problem. Their once thriving herb garden, which provided fresh ingredients for their signature dishes, was failing. One evening, Mom called me in a panic. "Sophia, the herbs are dying. We don't know what to do. The inspector is coming back tomorrow, and your father is beside himself." An hour later, Dad called. His tone was stiff but desperate. "We need your help," he admitted reluctantly. "Oh?" I said, feigning innocence. I didn't think gardening was a real career. There was a long silence before he asked, What would your consultation fee be?" When I named my price, $25,000, he sputtered. "That's outrageous." "It's actually below market rate for emergency horticultural services," I replied coolly. "But I'll offer you a family discount." They transferred the money the next day. After inspecting the garden, I identified the problem: poor drainage and soil pH. I implemented the fixes just in time, and their prized herbs bounced back. The inspection went smoothly, and the bistro earned glowing praise in a local paper, which credited their innovative herb garden, designed by a renowned landscape architect. When asked about the garden's origins, Dad reluctantly admitted my involvement. I saw him fighting back a mix of embarrassment and pride as he explained it to the reporter. The real turning point came when Olivia's mother, a prominent figure in local society, hired me to redesign the garden at her estate. Her reason? "Well, darling," she said over tea, "if you're good enough for the city's urban renewal project, you're good enough for me." Her fee? Triple what I'd charged my father. When I arrived at her home to discuss the project, Adam and Olivia's faces were priceless. Olivia tried to mask her annoyance, but Adam's sour expression said it all. By the time I opened my design studio, momentum was on my side. I leased a prime location, ironically, a space my father had once considered for expanding the bistro. From my studio windows, the bistro's herb garden was clearly visible, now thriving under my care, for which I charged a hefty monthly maintenance fee. As the urban renewal project gained attention, national design magazines and environmental groups began featuring my work. The sustainable gardens I'd created became a symbol of innovation, and the city even nominated the project for an Environmental Impact Award. Then, something unexpected happened. Dad showed up at my studio, carrying a worn leather-bound recipe book, the one he'd used when he first opened the bistro. He set it on my desk and looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. "Your grandmother was the only one who believed in me when I started the bistro," he said quietly. "My father thought I was throwing my life away. And now I realize. I've been doing the same to you." For the first time, he admitted he was proud of me. The bistro's transformation was remarkable. Thanks to the urban renewal project, it became the focal point of a new green corridor, complete with outdoor dining areas and sustainable features. The restaurant's tagline was updated to, "From our garden to your table." Every dish on the menu now listed the exact garden location of its ingredients, and the bistro's Instagram account exploded with photos of the vibrant herb garden and the vertical gardens nearby. At a recent family meeting, one I was invited to sit at the head of the table for, Dad proposed a joint venture. The idea was to merge the bistro with my design studio, creating a culinary and horticultural experience center. He even suggested rebranding the bistro with a new name to reflect my contributions. Mom chimed in with a smile, holding up an old photo of me as a child, proudly holding a potted tomato plant in Grandma Elaine's garden. "We should have seen it back then," she said. "You were always meant for this." Today, the business is thriving. Our joint venture has been featured in national publications, and the bistro now has a months-long waiting list for reservations. Dad spends his mornings in the garden, wearing one of our branded aprons, no less. At family gatherings, people used to mock me as the gardener. Now, the host proudly announces, "Welcome to the garden table, where a gardener's vision meets culinary excellence." Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe and turn on notifications to be the first to have radish and real stories with you. Have a great day.